Vrana, any update? Or?
He's on his way en route to Grand Rapids. He'll do a conditioning stint there, which we're excited about. I think the plan is now he'll play 3 games for them, and then we'll reevaluate and go from there.
Fabry any closer too?
We're hoping to have Fabry after the new year. So that, I think maybe New Jersey is a possibility.
How excited are you just to, getting somewhat of a whole roster?
Well, we got to get there. We've had this talk before, and we've had some bodies go down. So, of course, we haven't had the luxury of even close to a full roster all year long. But our guys have handled it very well. So, yeah, we could get 3 to 4 guys start to sprinkle back in here in the next couple weeks.
Do you start to kind of do back of the napkin, obviously
No.
there's guys who...
Because we've been here all year, we have not been able to get there. It's no one's fault. It's you start doing that, and then there's no sense of doing it. It'll be a good problem if we can actually get there.
Derek, I know you said that you don't really look at the standings or focus on one game at a time, but during this break, did you happen to glance at the Atlantic Division standings to see how tight this is?
No, it's demoralizing looking at the top of it in a good way. That's the Atlantic. That's what you sign up for, which is fine. That's we actually where we want to be anyways. That's where we want to be. Could we be in some other divisions or conferences in this league and be in a better position? Yes, but what does that mean? We're trying to get to a certain spot. We just happen to be in the Atlantic.
After this 2-game road trip, the next 6, I think, out of 7 are at home again. Schedule seems kind of odd where you're playing at home a lot and then you go on the road for a little bit. How important is it, and do you think you have established a home ice here?
Yeah, I mean, I think our game's been fairly consistent, both home and I don't know the exacts, but I think they're almost matching win percentages, home and away, which is good. But, that means we probably left some points out there at both home and away. So, I just think consistency within our game, no matter where you are. Obviously, we can get a little bit deeper roster. I think it'll help us with some matchups. But, of course, you want to win at home. It's a point of emphasis. Any good team does. Any team where they get where they want to be usually is a successful team at home.
I know that you're playing back-to-back in the goaltending situation. I mean, could Billy go both games?
He could. We're leaning towards playing someone other than Billy in one of these back-to-backs. Something we'll talk about as a staff probably tomorrow morning. But, again, big picture. Could he play back-to-back? Yes. Has he already this year? Yes, but... Again, we're starting to flirt with a uncomfortable workload for him going forward. So we'll likely see one of the other 2 goalies in one of those back-to-backs.
Derek, is Thursday a little bit now from what you've heard? I mean,
no idea. No
idea.
idea. Obviously, the issue I think would be us getting into town. I believe their issue is them not being able to get out of the city. So could be. I honestly don't know.
4 days off, how just refreshing, recharging was that, and how was practice? Did you feel today? Would they ramp up pretty quickly?
I thought so. You could tell they were re-energized. I thought practice was sharp and crisp for having the 4 days off, but you saw towards the end of practice we were tiring, which is understandable. It's kind of why you got to fight through this a little bit.
Could you foresee, at this point it's been almost 3 weeks since Adalkovich has played. Is there a world where he would ever do a conditioning stint?
Yeah, I don't know. I think whoever gets that next start will probably reevaluate where our goalie situation is. And the reality of having all these forwards potentially coming back is we may not have that luxury of the roster spot and carrying 3 goalies. So I think we'll get through this back-to-back and kind of reevaluate where our goalie situation is.
This is kind of a follow-up to Ted's question. This time of year, just maybe human nature, people are reflective. They look at, like their lives or, people, make resolutions and all that. Do you find after a break for a professional athlete that mentally they're really in tune because they've had that break that it is more of just getting them more physically ready to play. As you said, they were more tired physically. Do you think mentally that this team is as focused as, you can go in the room and say, boys, run through a wall or something, and they do it?
Yeah, that's a great question because, despite our ups and downs, even in pre-Christmas, obviously we ended on a high before a low. Spirits were high, but again, I think as even you saw that 0-4-2 stretch, prior to the 3 points in 4 games, our guys were competing, playing with structure, doing a lot of what we asked of them. Just wasn't good enough to get the full 2 points in a lot of those. So, I think for any mental break is a good break, but, we can knock a lot of things with our guys. Their attitude, work ethic, approach is one thing that's been pretty consistent, and I think that's kind of why we've kept us afloat and stayed competitive.
You personally, what's the balance of a mental break, of taking a break, and I know you're thinking about things every day. What's the balance for you personally?
Well, I think it's healthy. You need that. We all do. And I think, even, as coaches, we probably don't shut it down quite like the guys do, but you need that. So, and again, I think I got the question before break, having that cancellation, a little bit of extended break, is it good or bad? It's hard to say. Obviously, we were on a little bit of a high with our play in Washington at home. But yeah, break, physical, mental, I think was very important. For me, just like anyone else, our entire staff was also healthy.
I don't think you guys ever ran into them in the playoffs, but just the whole Crosby, Malkin, Letang nucleus in Pittsburgh. How impressive is it what they've accomplished and just in their careers and just as people and stuff?
Amazing. It'll go down, probably. I know I've talked about, I was fortunate enough to be around Stanley Cup champions, special team, special core. You probably won't appreciate it till down the road. You're probably in the same thing with Pittsburgh. You may not appreciate how good that core is and how consistent it is until down the road. But the fact that they're still keeping their team at the top of the league, competitive, Stanley Cup aspirations for as long as they have, and they're still in that window, pretty impressive, and it says something about that core.
How good are they right now when you see them on tape? I mean, are they as good as anybody right now?
Good. Of course they are, but, I got that question. I came into this league maybe 5-6 years ago, and I would get that question, you're new in the league. Who are the players? And it was just watching, every player is special in this league, just to be in this league. But he's that guy that he pops from the bench in his two-way game and how he can take a game over. Really good. Obviously, they're as hot as a team. Slow start and they're right there, and they don't do it without that core. So yeah, very impressive.
What are you hoping to see from Berger and Soderblom, guys who still have the waiver exemption, as some of these guys get closer?
Consistency in their game, and which they've had. I think some increased role even for Berger and getting some power play time. Elmer built off his game the other day. That line was good. Obviously, they scored, which was a huge goal at the time. You're tied in the third. We would love to have those tough decisions. Kind of the question before. Are you putting this on the back of a napkin, projecting, where this could be? We would love to have those tough conversations on what to do, and they would force our hands with their play. So hopefully we can get there in a week or so.
I'm just curious, as your first year with the organization, how much have you enjoyed having Grand Rapids so close? I'm curious, as someone who's been in various organizations, just having it right there where you could have, not just from a player perspective, but a goalie coach on there.
Great skating coaches, skills coaches, huge luxury. We did not have that luxury in Tampa, obviously having Syracuse as our affiliate. Just had to plan a little more ahead around it, but it's a huge luxury. Even us, we're carrying 12 forwards right now and have really no worries about it. It's so easy to get a player on the East Coast. So, yeah, huge luxury having your American hockey team that close.
Do you talk with them fairly regularly, or just not probably?
Yeah,
every day,
no, quite often. I talk to Benny quite often, both front end and back end of the Christmas break there. Obviously, the Vrana dynamic of him going down there and conditioning stint. Of course, yes. Ben and I talk quite often.